Hammel.
Great. Before we get into the interview questions, I have just a few preliminary questions for you. Can you tell us what dates you worked at RCA?
There were 2 times I worked at RCA, roughly from the latter part of June of '54 till November of 1971, and then came back in '73. That would have been April or May of '73 till I retired, which would have been January 31st, 1993.
Can you tell us why you left RCA during that period?
Yeah, I was laid off.
Oh, okay. And what was your job title while you were there?
Well, I had several. I started out as a trainee, then went to I forget what they call it exactly, associate member of the engineering staff, member of the engineering staff, senior member of the engineering staff, and that was basically it.
Okay. How did you get your job at RCA?
When I graduated, or when I was about to graduate from college, the RCA sent people down to interview, as other companies did, and I got several interviews or several offers to come to work for these companies. And I sat down and talked with my father, and he said it looked to him like RCA was the best one to go with, and also it was within 1,000 miles of home, and I was familiar somewhat with Philadelphia, so I came here.
Why did it look like RCA was the one to go with?
Mainly, I think it was because of the medical benefits at the time. At the time, I think they said their medical benefits were worth like $25 a week or a month, and they had some medical benefits. Other companies didn't have those.
Can you describe what you did at RCA?
Yeah, I was a design engineer most of the time, except when I was in a training program. I was not a design engineer, but I was in the training program. And I was a design engineer in the digital area. In other words, I took a specification and tried to implement it in hardware.
What kind of hardware?
Integrated circuits, transistors, things like that.
What kinds of wages and benefits did you earn at RCA?
Don't remember how much. I think I remember I was making like $25 an hour when I left, or maybe closer to 30. I don't remember exactly. The benefits were the standard benefits that they had for other people, and that's pretty much it.
How did those benefits compare to other companies in the area?
I never really had an opportunity to check out other companies. I did interview for other companies for jobs at times, but I never really had much use for my medical benefits until I got much older. So I didn't really know how good or bad they were.
What were your relationships with your coworkers like?
I think I had good relationships. We had a nice team. I'm thinking of when I worked in Camden. I worked with a group of guys in a communications area related to computers, and we had a nice team, very compatible people.
Were there a variety of ethnic groups where you worked at RCA?
Yes. Yes.
What kind?
Well, we had black, we had Jewish. I don't think we had any Muslims that I know of. We had one Chinese fellow. His name was So Long. I used to say, "So Long, it's been good to know you." And he had been, and then we had an Israeli, well, I don't guess he was Israeli, but I think he was Jewish. He had been head of the Egyptian telephone company at one time. And I think So Long had been in China, had been a head of a telephone company there. So we had a lot of different groups.
What were your working conditions like?
Well, in Camden at the time, they were not too good. We didn't have air conditioning when I first went there. And you'd come in the morning, they supplied you with a rag. The cleaner would come around once a week and give you a clean rag, and you'd wipe the dead mosquitoes off your desk when you came in the morning. And but then we got air conditioning, and but we were still in bullpens, and very old buildings. They're not there anymore. 10 and 13. A lot of time I spent in 13 building, very very old buildings, and big windows and high ceilings and fans up on the post to help cool. And then when I was working on a Bismack computer there, which was RCA's first computer, they had air conditioning for it, and you'd get really cold going in there. And going in and out of a cold environment, you tend to get colds and things like that. So the working conditions are much better today, much better.
What was one of your most memorable experiences working at RCA?
I enjoyed, in general, developing things one-of-a-kind type devices. One of the things I worked on was a communications controller multi-channel, and that was a real forerunner of a lot of communications and that are today's pretty much standard. That was an adventure. I worked in Morristown, I worked on a fast Fourier transform, designed a fast Fourier transform. Though it was never built, it was simulated on a program. And I enjoyed those kind of things where I had to really dig in and create something new that had never been done before or was unique.
What kind of customers use the things that you designed?
Okay, we had customers, the military, the defense in Camden. We did some work for them. We also, the first computer went to the Ordnance Tank and Automotive Command out in Dayton, Ohio. I didn't work on the second or third computer that they built, which went to Higbee's department store in Cleveland, I believe. And worked on, in Camden, I worked on commercial and military or government type things. In Morristown, it was strictly military.
Can you describe an average workday?
Yeah, we'd arrive there about 8 o'clock in the morning. Quite often I would arrive earlier and go to the cafeteria and have coffee and maybe some breakfast. And then we'd go to work at 8 o'clock and work till 11:30 and go to lunch and come back and take a walk through Camden, up Cooper Street and down Market, and stop in some of the local places there. Sam's Smoke Shop is one place I remember. I don't think it's there anymore. And then we go back to work at say 12:30, and we had one fellow that would take a walk with us, he says, let's rush back to work and rest up. And we would go back to work and work till 5. And it was, you know, it was not an intense day, but it was not something where you were on a production line or something like that. It's using your mind a lot. And figuring out, you would go through a process of conceiving how to do something, then making the diagrams to build it, and then building it, and then troubleshooting it, and that would be the sequence of things that you go through.
What kind of changes were made over the years you were at RCA?
When I first went there, one of the things we used to do was make breadboards. That is, simulate the way something would be built. And then the edict came down from on high not to build breadboards, but go directly and build something first from ground up, and that would be it. So that was a big change, and a lot of people, including myself, complained about that. And because we'd been used to building something and trying out various ideas, and then we would take that and put it into a product. But this was, we go directly and build a product. That was one of the big changes. The other changes were things like going from vacuum tubes in the computer to transistors to integrated circuits, and that was a big change too. So a lot of changes went on. Speeds of things increased dramatically. The first computer, well, I worked on something called a sorter when I first came to the computer division after finishing the training program. And the sorter ran at an amazing 10 kilohertz. And today you find these laptop computers are running at megahertz and gigahertz. So the speed is a big thing, the type of circuits, just amazing the changes that went on. I don't know how to describe it any better than that, but the speed, how much you could put into something, how much you could do with things, and how much you could do with them.